Hello everyone, I'm Martin and I'm part of the Media Access Marketing Department for SCAA. Welcome back to our AEP session. Those new to our channel, we welcome you. You know what to do, and click that subscribe button. Give this video a like as it will help move our platform forward so we continue spreading awareness to the general public about sickle cell disease through our social media. Continue practicing social distancing, washing your hands, and staying healthy. Today's session features Dr. Carolyn Rowley from Cayenne Wellness. In today's session, Dr. Rowley will be discussing the approach to review the 5 life tasks: work, school, social with family and friends, love, self-acceptance, and spirituality, the role of healthy foods, foods to overcome deficiencies, exercises that improve insulin sensitivity and blood sugar levels, and so much more. So without further ado, we welcome our speaker, Dr. Carolyn Rowley.
So for those of you who do not know me, I'm Dr. Carolyn Rowley, Executive Director at Cayenne Wellness Center. And like SCAASF, we also take care of persons and their families with sickle cell disease across the state of California. And we have several community health workers throughout. We are a nonprofit and totally dedicated and have been doing this since the year 2000, so for 21 years. And I'm also an adult person with sickle cell disease. And I want to talk about intention. So I'll start, and Shirley will come after me and talk about why it matters and why I actually take this approach throughout. So I'm going to share a story, and that is, like I said, I'm an adult person with sickle cell disease. And I recall that for the most part growing up, um, I was in and out of the hospital. I wouldn't say I was in frequently, but I was in enough times that I remember that I didn't feel good when I was ill. And it wasn't just the physical, the pain part that I think we can relate to. It was the emotional part. It was the recovery part. And I recall when I was in high school that it had a major effect, that when I was out and when I was well, I felt good. I felt more like me. However, when I was in the hospital and then having to recover, I was depressed because I was reflecting on the fact that my life had stopped. Life had continued on, school had continued on, activities had come and gone. And so there was that moment, that period. And I didn't like that. And I actually do recall the moment that I prayed. And I prayed that, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. I can't go back and forth. I can't live this dual life where I feel good, not feel good, not feel good. Um, so I recall praying that, okay, Lord, the next time I get ill, if you want to take me out, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm ready. But if I survive, then you have to give me the tools necessary to be able to still have joy throughout the experience, because the going back and forth was not good for my mental health. And so obviously, he wants me here because I'm still here. And I do have joy. I do have peace. Um, and I do have purpose. And so that was a period in my life where a decision was made to be intentionally mentally healthy, because I remember how it made me feel. And so that was the defining moment in my life to be able um, to trust that I could have joy and peace, and that I could accomplish that which I set out to. So from that point, I was able to continue. I did fine in school. Um, I went into an MD PhD program in Illinois. Um, Went on to do residency at University of Louisville Medical Center, came back to California, and I continued, to work. I mentioned that story because it's about intention, that Shirley will talk about why does intention matter. But it matters so that you don't feel as if there's no control that you have, and that now you feel good, now you don't. Now you're in the hospital, now you aren't. And it really can do a number on both your body, mind, and spirit. And so just wanted to just let you know that it is possible to take a step back, truly look at what's happening, be intentional with what it is that you desire. And now I'll turn it over to Shirley to talk about why it matters. Can you move the screen? Next slide. Next slide. Thank you.
Okay, it matters to be intentional because it avoids you being tossed to and fro and controlled by circumstances, as opposed to independently being directed. There's a power that comes when you make up your mind and you make a decision to move forward towards pursuing a path of wellness, transformation in the quality of your life. So it begins with making up your mind. It begins with determining with commitment that this is the path that you want to journey on. And from that place of being grounded, you will have that peace. The peace and the contentment and the physical well-being, the quality of your life, knowing that that's available, believing that's available is transformative, and it gives you the energy and the power to move forward, to bring it into manifestation. So that resolve and that commitment begins with a made-up mind. It means I have determined, I have decided, not, well, I'll see, and maybe if I can, and we kind of ride in the fence. No, just kind of be committed, trusting that there's blessings that flow forward from that. The next screen. So when you make up your mind, that for you is a defining moment. And a friend of mine who also is a natural wellness practitioner, Kimberly Taylor, said, a defining moment is a wake-up call that leads you to make a permanent decision. You finally realize that the pain of staying the same is greater than the perceived pain of changing. So you draw a line and separating you from your past, you're separating your past from your future, knowing that your past does not have to equal your future. So you're looking forward, not glancing through the rear view mirror at what was, but with an enthusiasm, a hope, an intentionality, a commitment, and a decisive stance to move forward. And so you can move to the next screen. A lot of times when people talk about making changes, there's a lot of resistance. And so I have this temper tantrum in there, like, just get it out, have your fit, do your tantrum, get it out of your system, and then keep it moving. It's just straight forward. Next screen. And that lets you break the chains that limit your life and bring you into another level of another dimension of quality of life, body, mind, and spirit, and because they run together. And the Passion Translation of John 8:32 says, "For if you embrace the truth, it will release more freedom into your lives." And the truth is that there is a space in a place to experience a level of wellness and quality of life greater than where you are at the time, at the moment, in so many dimensions. And even just not, there are ways, natural ways, spiritual and mental processes and techniques that are available to have a totally different relationship with pain and with when and if you do have it. So please move to the next screen. I think that might be it, but yeah. So with that, turn it back over to Dr. Carolyn.
Hi, thank you. And so before we get into the holistic health part, I actually do want to open it up to see if anyone does have any questions or thoughts at this moment before we start talking about the holistic perspective. One thing I do want to say, Shirley, thank you, because as everyone knows, I do sign everything with peace, because I truly have ultimate peace. And I like what you said about that the peace gives you energy and power to move your life forward in the way that you imagine. The other thing I got from that, which I can attest to, with that one has a different relationship with pain as a result. So I want to just take a moment just to see if anyone has a question, thought, or comment. Okay, so we're going to talk about our holistic perspective at this time. Next slide.
You want to just add one last comment?
Sure.
But to that intention, and just to know that it's an act of self-love, self-care, honoring that you deserve it. You want to give yourself that gift in love to yourself, and it generates an opportunity for you to be more loving. It transforms not only your life, but those that are in your sphere, in your orbit, the relationships that you have on many dimensions. So I just lastly want to say, be patient with the process. Life is never a straight line, never linear, but sometimes the mountains go in circles, but you're going up and up and up. And just take bites. An inch is a cinch and a yard is hard. So you just take small bites and master that and move to the next step.
Thank you. So from this holistic perspective, I want to just share with you something that I've done in our practice and how we actually work with patients, but also something that you can just take for yourself in terms of keeping this as a something that you can actually relate to and just check in with yourself. So this holistic perspective is based upon Alfred Adler's individual psychology. Not sure if you all know who he is, but I'm sure that everyone has heard of Sigmund Freud, right? Id, ego, superego. And Alfred Adler at one point was a person that followed Freud, but I think at a certain point he was thinking that, Freud's kind of way out there. And he began his own, he kind of branched off and started what he calls individual psychology. And I really could relate to his concept. If you guys have heard of birth order, like firstborn, middle child, okay, he actually developed that. If you've heard of inferiority or superiority complex, he actually developed that. But he also developed what's called these life tasks. And this is really real. This is actually what creates the wholeness of who we are. So we're going to take a look at that. So part of the life task, there's 5, and they're made up of work/school, social, which has to do with family and friends, love, self-acceptance and spirituality. Next slide. So the bottom line is, and how we do our work is that we always, before we do anything, and it doesn't even matter what it is that you're dealing with. If you're a person dealing with grief, we're going to still look at life task. If you're a person that's dealing with depression, we're going to deal with life task. So no matter what it is that you're wanting to work on, we're still going to work on life tasks because that makes up who we are. So let's look at work/school. And next slide. So this has to do with the fact that we're human beings and life requires that we work. We weren't born into a bubble. So we have to do something so that we are industrious. Now, again, this doesn't mean that if you um, have sickle cell disease and at this time you're not able to work in terms of a 9 to 5 or part-time, that doesn't mean that that's it, because it also means that you can be going to school or you could be volunteering. But the work/school means that we're designed to be doing something. We're designed to be industrious. And so when this isn't working, when you want to go to school, but you find that you can't finish because of um, being in and out of the hospital, that has an impact on how you feel about yourself. The same thing in terms of work. You desire to work and you are having a hard time finding a job. This has an impact on how you actually feel about yourself. So we're going to just keep that in mind, that work/school is one of the life tasks. Next one, social. Very important. All of us were born into a family. No family is perfect. Mothers and fathers are human beings. And so no one is perfect. So our family is not somebody who we choose, but it's a people who we have to learn how to navigate in terms of adapting, belonging, cooperating. And then there's friends. And so these are persons, hopefully, that you're selecting, that you're choosing. And even then, you are working through the sense of belonging. So what happens is, I've known patients who, I'm thinking of someone right now who she's never told her friends ever that she has sickle cell disease. I thought that was interesting. And so the group said, so then what happens when you are in the hospital? And she said, well, I just told them that I had, the flu, just a bad cold or something like that. So that actually leads into self-acceptance. But the concern is that had she been honest, that she felt that she would have lost her friendship group. And so that sense of belonging was really important. But for me, it was a little concerning that she couldn't be her true self. She couldn't reveal that aspect of who she is. A person with sickle cell disease, you're not your disease, but you're a person with something, that she was afraid. So when you desire friends or a better family life, when this is awry, when this isn't working, then we need to look at this. This also then can be worked on, whether it's relationship with your family and or your friends. So keep that in mind. The next slide is love. And according to Adler, as well as Carl Rogers, this is the task that is most challenging for everyone. It's the most challenging of all the life tasks to navigate. So this is where we define our sex, who we are in terms of our sex role, what it means to be a woman and or a man, our identification. So then once we do that, then it's also about being able to find that partner. And so it's very challenging, because if you desire to be in a relationship and you're not, that can have an impact on you. Or if you are in a relationship and it's abusive, and or it's not, they're not supportive, um, then that can also create stress and depression. So this is love, again, is the most challenging of all the life tasks to navigate, to be able to find that partner and to also have that sustaining relationship. Next slide. Self-acceptance. So this is the most important because we are who we are. Some things we can change, even eye color, we can put on contacts, but you can't change the color of your skin. You can't change these things about us. You can't change how much melanin you have. You can't change. I mean, there's plastic surgery for changing nose and types of, eyes and all of that, your lips. But I'm talking about truly those things that you were born with, such as sickle cell disease. That's genetic. And so this part comes into play in terms of, and this is where the peace comes from. Are you able to truly accept? And I know at some point when people are younger, they ask, why me? But are you able to truly accept that I'm a person that was born with sickle cell disease? And that's about it. And it's something that you have to maneuver and navigate, but it doesn't define at all or limit at all what you can do, what you can accomplish. So self-acceptance is really important. And like the patient that I told you about earlier, had a very difficult time accepting the fact that she had sickle cell disease, to the point that she wasn't even able to share that with persons who she thought were close in terms of her friends. Very important in terms of being able to continue to navigate and how you see yourself. So it defines, who am I? And how do you relate to yourself?
She freeze? Okay. Slide freeze. Technical difficulty here with Carolyn. Cheryl, do you have the ability to carry on with the self-acceptance portion to help out? You're on mute. You're on mute. You're on mute. Let me unmute you. Okay. Go ahead, unmute yourself.
Okay. All right. I hadn't gone over this particular part directly with Dr. Rowley, but I can say that that's an important factor in terms of holistically being well and having the capacity to receive healing. The stress, the internal stress and the tension that comes from the lack of self-acceptance is a barrier to wellness. And so accepting yourself, even in the midst of, before you may have an increased quality of life, it's not a thing of resignation.
Right.
It is being with what is at the moment, so that you can get unstuck and open space to move forward.
Right.
So being okay.
Yeah, she's gotten back. So I wanted to ask, do you feel like with that self-acceptance, because I've had some friends that obviously have had issues with drugs and alcohol. I mean, obviously they go to the AA meetings and they get to that point to where it's like, okay, look, I have to figure out these steps that are going to help me change. But it's them accepting the state that they're in currently and not trying to deny it to others that are from the outside looking in, to give them an opportunity to actually resurrect their lives in a different direction that's positive for them. Is that the same situation, correct?
Yeah, like you can't fix what you don't acknowledge. You know, you have to be with what is. There are some proponents of some concept called positive confession.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, to me, a sense of denial, because internally it creates an internal psychological conflict.
Yeah, I was waiting for that word. Carolyn?
So you
Well,
have to, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
okay, so part of it is with self-acceptance is not being defined by whatever the latest fads are. So, because if you do that, you're going to get caught up and never feel like you are worthy or meet up with that. So I define my own, I'm sorry, but I define my own trends. And so I know what I like, which that makes me love myself even more because I know exactly what I like. And I'm vegan. I wear only cotton and linen. I have my own style. I have no idea what the latest styles are because I define that for myself, even in terms of how I look. So if people are looking at beauty based upon what they have, out there and advertising, a lot of people are not going to um, rise to that. So being able to love yourself and your nose and your eyes and your lips and your skin and all of it. So that's what the self-acceptance is, including having sickle cell disease or whatever other genetic um, aspect that you were created with. I do want to move on to spirituality because that is the last one, and then somehow I got knocked off. Um, this was really important because according to Adler, there is a higher power, and it's about how people define that higher power. So for most, it's going to be Christianity, but not for all. So it might be that the person is Muslim or however they define that. So part of that is, does the person believe that there is a God or not? If they do believe, then what is God like and how do they actually relate? Do you have a relationship? So that part is important. So with these life tasks and how we tend to look at it is this. So there's 5 life tasks, right? Everyone right now can just ask themselves, am I where I'm at in terms of work and school? Am I where I'm at socially? Do I have friends that I trust and who are supportive? Or are my friends into drama? Are they drama kings and queens? And do I need to put some distance? Love. Now, some people may not want to be in a relationship. Perfectly okay. That's because that's a decision. But are you where you want to be? Do you have a healthy relationship that you are in? Self-acceptance, spirituality. So everyone can do this. Everyone can be able to check in and with themselves just make sure, am I where I'm at? And if not, I need to start working on those particular tasks that are not working. Um, Next slide, please. So now I'm going to turn it over to Shirley to talk about why it matters.
Okay, those things to bring your life into balance and ward off stress. I'm going to focus on the stress aspect more than anything else, because all of those components, bringing those aspects into tending to all those dimensions of life, bring it into a greater level of balance where you are less vulnerable to the effects of stress and how you respond to circumstances. So it increases your capacity to do that. And it matters greatly because the stress that can come from not having those, not being conscientiously moving towards balance in each of those dimensions creates emotional responses to those conditions that are unfavorable. And so that keeps us in a constant fight, flight, or freeze mode. That reflex is triggered, and it sends a message to the brain to release cortisol and adrenaline. And our bodies react to this by increasing blood pressure, heart rate, your breathing rate, your muscles tense up, and all of the different metabolic reactions. It also has a change in your blood chemistry. And when these things are chronic and frequent and not properly channeled or managed, it can create a cascade of other health problems. Of course, it makes you more vulnerable. Stress is one of the largest triggers for a sickle cell crisis. The physiological effect of our emotional and mental response to circumstances is huge. And so there's, we need to learn ways to manage that. There are, because, well, we need to appreciate the consequence of it. For example, researchers estimate that about 80% of all major illnesses and are triggered by stress as a significant factor. And so fear, worry, anxiety, anger, negative emotional responses to these upsets and pressures that we all face in life put us at jeopardy and at a higher level of risk for any number of sicknesses and diseases. So we want to kind of take charge of that, make a decision to be, again, intentional about managing our life, not adding stress, but kind of looking at it. We have to be, as part of self-acceptance, we have to be self-aware. So we need to pay attention to how we're responding and sometimes maybe reframe that and think about another way to think about, to view it, alternate ways to perceive or translate or interpret what is actually happening in a way that's less stressful, more acceptable, more peace-giving, more balance yielding. So otherwise, in addition to the physical sicknesses and diseases, you have anxiety, depression. Some people grind their teeth because they have all this unmanaged stress, poor concentration, sleeplessness, chronic fatigue, poor digestion, and all of those things are compounded. And we're especially sensitive to stressors that can manifest not only in sickle cell events, but the same events that the general population of deals with that I mentioned. So that chronic unmanaged stress leads to adrenal fatigue, which is not something that mainstream medicine doctors, allopathic doctors necessarily embrace. That's not a diagnosis per se in mainstream medicine. And alternative medicine or functional medicine doctors more so. And there's testing that can be done for that and plans. And I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail about that, but just to be aware that it really matters a lot to take charge and find tools. And there are so many of them. And I'll just quickly mention a few in terms of ways to manage stress. Diet has a huge effect, a huge impact on how our bodies actually can manage stress and stand up to those pressures and upsets and traumas and process it out of our body and have a greater level of resiliency. And sleep, of course, is really important because that's where our repairing and rejuvenating cycles are. And it's really a complex, but the body is amazing. We are truly fearfully and wonderfully made. But There are, I'm sure a lot of you are aware of other modalities to help offset the devastating impact that unmanaged stress, chronic stress can have on your body, in addition to the adrenal fatigue, which if you get up in the morning and you need coffee, you can't function. About midday, you're wiped out. You have intermittent disruptions of sleep in the middle of the night. Those could be signs of adrenal fatigue. And these things can make a difference. A healthy diet for stress or adrenal fatigue. Sleep, exercise, yoga, deep breathing, meditation, mindfulness. Gratitude is huge. Studies have shown, scientifically based studies have shown significant positive outcomes from embracing some of these tools. And so you just get a toolkit that works for you. You don't have to do it all. Don't have an all or nothing attitude. Take what resonates with you and apply those things to your life. So gratitude, having a generous spirit, exercise, social connections, so important. People who you can trust, who so positive experience, who can listen to you. Also, professional help, counseling, coaching, therapy. There's something you can Google, I won't take time, but it's powerful. Expressive writing. It's different than journaling, although journaling can be helpful, but I have had major benefits from expressive writing in terms of managing stress, especially in the realm of relationships. Essential oils can help: lavender, bergamot, yang yang, frankincense, herbs and herbal teas, herbs like kava, rhodiola, chamomile. Those are things that you can look up and get more details about: massage, acupuncture. So we have so many resources at our disposal to help us manage. You don't have to fly solo and just try to wing it and embrace it on your own. You have external help, friendships, relationships, counseling, herbs, teas, and all kinds of physical activities. And so
all right, thank you. So, and in the previous slide, Shirley, if you can talk about thankfulness and giving, the previous slide.
Right. When you, as I mentioned, studies have shown being grateful, actually being consciously aware of what you can be thankful for. The other day, my son was driving and he just impromptu sent me a video that he made on the fly, because his windshield wipers were making this noise, like, and it made him think about a song that he knew from me growing up together, by Sam Cooke. That's the sound of the man working on the train gang. So he was singing to me. I didn't even know he could sing, but that brought me I was so grateful, because it brought me joy and I laughed immediately. When you think about, you can write these things down to make it more real. Writing gives it a more permanence and appreciation. But if you keep a gratitude journal, put the why. Because you can just say, I am grateful for the sunshine, but it brings a whole nother level of appreciation if you say why. Why? Because it calms me. I love the warmth on my skin. I love, if you add the why to what you're thankful for, it magnifies the impact, the positive impact, and it really releases those happy hormones. It kind of gives you more awareness of focusing on what's good, hunting for the good, looking out for what's good about this situation, even if it's a challenging circumstance. So it really makes a huge difference to focus on what's good and being grateful and thankful for that.
Next slide.
And when you, they have also done numerous studies on kindness, giving, benevolence. It brings you outside of yourself and your problems. And no matter what state you're in, you can reach out. And that actually, when you give to others and you make a difference in their life, it brings you more joy sometimes than you are actually imparting to the other person. I remember a woman, an elderly woman who was a good friend's mom. She was housebound and couldn't really do much at all. And so I would stop by to see her occasionally. And as soon as I walked in the door, she would say, "Hey, Precious, come here, sweetie." And I mean, she just lit me up. I'm going there to try to bless her. And so by my desire to impart joy into her life, I'm just giving all these blessings. And so she was a giver in a great way in the realm within which she had to work with. So nothing really can be, there's really hardly anything that can be an obstacle for you to have an opportunity to give in some form of way. A smile, a word of encouragement, volunteering, any number of things makes a difference in your life, takes your eyes off of yourself and your problems.
Okay. Thank you. So this is our last slide before we actually take the break. And after the break, we'll get into food and movement. But I would like to take this time to see if there are any questions, comments, or thoughts.
Anybody?
I just have a comment that what Shirley was saying about the sun and the reason why, and I did type it in the chat box, but I just wanted to state it again that, yeah, give it that reason. And the sun just brings you to life. You know, it's very rejuvenating. It's very energizing and soothing and warm to the skin. So yeah, I totally understand what you're saying, Shirley. I really appreciate that information.
I wanted to also, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who is spiritually engaged a couple of days ago. And one of the things that he had mentioned to me, because I had mentioned to him that my mom started, which is Nadina, started doing meditation for 5-6 minutes. And what he had mentioned to me, as well as during the conversation, he had said to me that don't necessarily think of meditation as just sitting in one place, closing your eyes, breathing, and being quiet. Think of it as if you're writing in your journal or doing something that brings forth tranquility and calmness while you are executing your goal or executing your affirmations. So I just wanted to put to the group that, you know, you don't have to necessarily, if you don't happen to have that ability to have that space and time to sit by yourself, think about and reflect, use those techniques of thinking and reflecting in other areas of your life that are slowed down or to yourself or your me time, whether it be writing in a journal, whether it be thinking about what you're going to do for dinner, or being in the garden, or taking a walk down the street. All of those types of things, all of those actions that promote you to be in a state of being of tranquility and happiness. Those are meditational moments as well.
I also wanted to.
We're going to be talking about from this point on food, nutrition, and then movement. And I'm sure many of you have actually heard me talk about 344. I'm just going to give you information as to how that began, scientifically, how this works, how it actually can aid you if you have sickle cell disease, although I have put together 344 for diabetes, 344 for lupus, 344 for a variety of other diseases. But we're going to talk about how food and what you put in can be life sustaining. So I'm going to talk about 344 and foods, and Shirley will then follow in terms of why it matters, including different herbs and supplements as well. And uh, sometimes the three of us were like the dynamic trio sometimes. I think Tamika, myself, and Shirley have also done a presentation to complement each other. So it's good to be able to do this with Shirley. Next slide. So in terms of how this began, well, I've been vegetarian first, gosh, since third grade, and I was self-taught. That wasn't something that I learned from my family. It was actually something that I actually learned from a teacher. And my teacher had actually talked about this book called The Jungle. Um, so once she talked about that book by Upton Sinclair, but here's the other thing too that I knew I was destined to become a vegetarian was that I never liked chewing like that. My mom didn't serve meat really. She served chicken, but I never liked chewing. And so it was funny because I just didn't like to chew and chew and chew. And you have to chew your food at least, goodness, 25, 30 times in order for it to be liquefied. But with meat, it's actually even more. And I never liked that. It was just something that was intuitive. So by third grade, it was actually easy for myself to become a vegetarian. And then, say by high school, beginning of college, I became a vegan. So I had always been doing this and it had always been working. And it wasn't until I had my daughter, who's now 20, she'll be 22 actually this month, that I needed to put it more scientifically because I wanted to raise her as well as a vegan. And I wanted to make sure that I knew intuitively what I was doing was correct, but I actually wanted to make sure that it was scientific based. And it took a couple of years to gather all this information in terms of what was necessary for the body, where it all came from, in terms of food sources, and then for sickle cell to be able to combine that as well in terms of some of the deficiencies that we have. So 344 was born, and I still haven't come up with after all this time, and it's been about what 23 years or so, uh, with another catchier name. So it just stands for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, um, including adding nuts. And it's very easy. And I wanted it to be easy where you didn't have to count calories or you didn't have to count dew points or anything like that. If you just remembered what type of foods you need to eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that's all you needed to know to be able to to be able to know that all of your vitamins and minerals and phytochemicals are being met seriously. And this is what that is. So again, for breakfast, there's fresh fruit, dry fruit, healthy grain. Lunch, fresh fruit, green vegetable, orange vegetable, protein, and healthy grain. And dinner is the same. And then nuts. Next slide.
Carolyn, what would you consider healthy grain?
So we're going to get into that, the
Oh,
next slide, but that would be for breakfast, that would be like oatmeal. For lunch and dinner, that would be quinoa, that would be millet,
yes.
brown rice. And so, so what we have here, if you can see for breakfast, for myself, I'm just going to use myself. Um, I put down real oatmeal. That is the oatmeal that still takes you about 15 minutes to be able to prepare not the packaged ones that you just pour hot water. Um, I mean, the real oatmeal that takes time. So for breakfast, I've had my banana. I had oatmeal and I put raisins. But there's times that I do quinoa as well. And I also add I chop my Brazil nuts. Now, Brazil nuts have selenium. And literally, if you have 2 Brazil nuts a day, that'll take care of your selenium that's needed. So I put also in here dried fruit because that's pretty much the only time that we probably will eat dried fruit is during breakfast. So these are the things that you just need to just kind of keep in mind. So these are examples. Keep this in mind. We're going to go on to the next slide, which is lunch. And I have some examples. So example could be something like a spinach salad, which is the green vegetable, with shaved carrots. You can have some beets. Um, so the green is your spinach salad. The carrots are your orange. For myself, being vegan, I would probably wind up having beans and rice, and I eat all forms of beans. If you're not vegan, you can have, say, um, chicken with pasta, for instance, or salmon with brown rice. And then for your dessert, it can be today, I'll probably have my tangerine for dessert. But again, these are the different types of uh, the fresh fruit that you can have, which would be um, anywhere from tangerines, kiwi, papaya, mango, your green vegetables, spinach, kale, all the collard greens, the turnip greens, asparagus, broccoli, and then orange vegetables. Now, this is really important because the average person does not eat enough orange vegetables. So that would be carrots, yams, butternut squash. Those are forms that you can have. And then protein and grain. So that's the fourth part, a healthy protein and a healthy grain. So for myself, it would be beans. And for others, it can be, like I said, salmon or free range chicken. Next slide.
Dr. Rowley, I have a question. What about dates?
Yeah, so dates would be part of the dried fruit that you can have you can have it anytime, but yes, dates are considered one of the dried fruits. And they're excellent. Natural sweetener. So we'll talk, I think Shirley will get into that, but we don't really go into any kind of sweeteners. And so dates are a natural sweetener.
Yes.
You can put that in. For instance, I make what's called a vegan ice cream, and literally what's in it are dates that have been soaked, um, cashews, fresh squeezed orange juice, and fresh frozen fruit. And that's something that I've been COVID hit, but that was something that I was actually going to market and start with smaller stores. The dates are what gives it that sweetness, including the fruit. So yes, dates are excellent and naturally sweet. Thank you. And then for dinner, pretty much the same. You'll have your fresh fruit, your green vegetable, orange vegetable, and protein and grain. So for myself, again, we do a lot of, I'll probably make some black bean burgers, which basically have black beans, some chopped red bell pepper, onion, and I'll mix that with my chia seeds to hold them together, um, along with my brown rice, and then probably a nice sauteed Swiss chard with butternut squash. So, and then for a fruit, we'll probably have some berries that we have at home. So these are the examples that you can have, which again, watermelon berries for the green vegetables again, Swiss chard, green beans, Brussels sprouts, orange vegetables again, carrot, yams, butternut squash, and then the healthy protein and a grain. So that's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I'm going to stop here to see if anyone has any questions so far. Because what you're going to see next is how eating this way literally takes care of all the deficiencies that people with sickle cell disease have. But do you have any questions so far on 344?
My first question. Vegan lasagna.
Uh-huh.
How is that? What are the ingredients? How do you make that?
So I make it, it's in my book, and I make it, I use brown rice lasagna pasta. It's just literally brown rice and water. And then I use, for the inside part, I usually have zucchini,
Okay,
yellow squash. I saute that with onions,
nice.
with eggplant,
Okay.
and then I make my own tomato sauce. So that's going to be the inner part,
Yeah.
right? Or the meat part.
Yes.
And then for the cheese, I actually just use, you can use cashew cheese, which is just cashews.
Okay.
Or I actually would use tofu, lemon, green onions,
Nice.
salt and pepper, and I mix that, blend it, and I would pour that in between. So both of those are things that I actually can do at home. They're very, very easy, and that would be my cheese. So I would layer it just like you would layer regular lasagna.
Mm.
I'll have the brown rice pasta,
Okay.
and then my veggie part, and then my tofu cheese or cashew cheese, and then layer it again.
Cool. Not to make this like a little advertisement thing, but the book you just said that you have, how can we get our hands on that? Are you going to tell us later? Because we have
I'll
these
tell you
events, we're
now.
going to give out these types of books to a lot of people.
Oh,
So,
that would be wonderful.
yeah.
So people have been wanting a second edition for some time, and I've started working on the second edition right now.
Okay.
I believe you can get it on our website, and I'll type it in the chat.
Okay.
And it's also, I think that's probably going to be the best way because it's not on Amazon.
Got it.
The second edition will be Amazon, Barnes and Noble, but the first edition is not.
Okay.
But I'll just put it in the chat. Thank you for asking.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to the next slide. So here, everyone, I'm going to just let you know what the deficiencies are. The deficiencies here are what those with sickle cell disease, this is what we are, quote, deficient in, which means that we are below the level of normal. So folic acid, which is really, really important for the development of red blood cells. Vitamin E, which acts as an antioxidant. Vitamin D, which helps maintain proper calcium levels in the blood, which is important. Vitamin A and C. A helps improve your eyesight, and vitamin C, literally, this actually helps you repair when you have a cut, or it actually aids in the repair, how quickly you actually heal. Now, magnesium, that one should be highlighted. So for the many of us are very deficient in magnesium and phosphorus. Magnesium helps keep your blood circulating. Next slide. And phosphorus helps with the formation of bones and teeth. Zinc, we're deficient in. And so that helps the immune system fight off viruses. Protein, this helps with repairing your and building your tissues. Fiber, I don't think we talk about that enough. It supports bowel regularity. And what I say here is that if you eat 3 times a day, then you should be going to the restroom 3 times a day. I hear sometimes that people may not have bowel movement except maybe twice a week. That means that you're very unhealthy. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Maybe not enough water, particularly if you're on medication. You need to drink a lot more water. Um, Also, too, diet and not having enough foods that support that. Calcium builds bones and keeps them healthy. You're going to be surprised because calcium is not milk. And then B12, which supports the production of red blood cells. Next slide. So now you guys know 344, okay? And we already went over what all of these, the folic acid and the vitamins, what they do for the body, right? So now I want you to take a look and you'll be able to see, this actually takes care, this is also part of 344. So the folic acid, and you can get folic acid or folate from green leafy, from broccoli and beets. Well, guess what? That's part of lunch and dinner, right? The green vegetables. Same thing from vitamin E, that the mustard greens, the spinach, the green leafy, almonds, those are all part of 344. Now, the only thing in terms of vitamin D, if you're a vegan like myself, the most natural way to get vitamin D is the sun. And so I'm a sun baby. I look for the sun and I make sure that according to my daughter, I tend to stretch out my arms and then just welcome and invite the sun. But that's pretty much the only way if you're vegan to get vitamin D, unless it's supplements. If you're not a vegan, you can get it from salmon. Vitamin A, this is where the orange vegetables come in. And remember what I was saying is that a lot of people do not have enough orange vegetables, carrots, yams, sweet potatoes. You can also get vitamin A from green leafy. So as you can see, you can also get this from both the green and orange from 344. Vitamin C. So people know vitamin C as citrus, which is true. You can get it from the orange, the lemon, but you can also get it from kiwi, green leafy, and strawberries. And again, that's all part of 344. Magnesium, which we're most deficient in, you can get that from any and all of the green leafy vegetables. So it's from the Swiss chard, the spinach, the broccoli. Next slide, please. So phosphorus, you can get from the food source, you can get that from almonds. Now, again, being a vegan, I can't get it from this other sources, but if you're not a vegan, you can get it from eggs, chicken, and salmon. Zinc, very important. You probably heard people say if you have a little tickle in your throat and you want to get rid of that, take zinc. Well, you can also get zinc from foods such as the green leafy, as you see here, spinach, asparagus, Swiss chard, broccoli. Again, this is all part of the green part of 344. Protein. So many of us know protein as meat, but you can also get it from beans, from the green leafy, like collard greens, as well as cauliflower. Fiber. You can get fiber pretty much from all the green leafy vegetables, eggplant, and strawberries. Again, this is all part of 344. So everything that I'm mentioning here to overcome these deficiencies are literally foods that were mentioned with 344. Calcium. And remember I was saying most people think calcium is milk. Actually, you can get calcium from all green leafy vegetables, broccoli, and oranges, and B12. So being a vegan, it is rather difficult to get B12. You can get it from sea vegetables, but from the most part, you can get that from salmon and cow's liver. So there are some things that sometimes you do have to get supplement. I myself, and only because of from having a CBC, a complete blood count, I do have supplement for B12, but it's a vegan B12 spray. I also have, I do 5,000 milligrams of vitamin C that I get through my vegan vitamin C spray. And I do a D as well, although I do get sun. Next slide, please.
Dr. Rowley, I have a question. You said with zinc, if you got a tickle in your throat, what do you mean? If you have phlegm in your throat or something?
No, sometimes people feel like a little sore throat coming on. You can literally get rid of that so quick by taking zinc.
Okay, what about if you have phlegm in your throat? Does that help? Does zinc help that or?
That lets me know that you probably have some inflammation and that you'll need to, and Shirley will actually talk about that. But yeah, it won't help with the phlegm because the phlegm lets me know that that's inflammation. But it would help if you feel zinc, and vitamin C will help if you feel any kind of, sore throat, that tickle, not feeling 100% like you might be catching something. Seriously, take the zinc, vitamin C quickly. With the vitamin C, 5,000 milligrams is what I recommend daily. I think Tamika does as well. But when you feel something coming on, you can actually take more because it is water soluble and you will urinate it out. So it's not harmful.
Thank you.
Next slide. Next slide.
I had a question. Sea vegetables, what are they considered?
So I think you've heard of, like, I don't know if you guys have heard of kombu. You can get that mainly from, I believe, like the Japanese type stores.
Okay.
I don't do sushi, but they have those sea wraps that you can get, and they're crunchy. That's healthy. I put kombu when I make my beans. I actually soak my beans in kombu. That's a sea vegetable. So part of that, I think it's just because it's the minerals and all of that from the ocean as to why that is healthy. And it contains B12. But you can actually find these in, I think, Whole Foods. I'm not sure about Trader Joe's, but I'm sure you can find them.
Nice. All right.
Other questions for me before we turn it over to Shirley, and she'll talk to you about why it matters. Any questions for me in 344? All right, Shirley.
Okay, well, let's see. Do I have my? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Next slide.
Okay.
Next slide, please.
Okay. It matters that we make a healthy choice, and always keep in mind that we have the power to choose, and healing actually is a choice, or improving, significantly reducing crises, pain episodes. I call them glyco rides, but or some of the secondary issues, or the issues that the general population faces: high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, high triglycerides, all those things. We can make choices that significantly reduce our the chances for us getting those imbalances, sicknesses, or diseases. The next slide. Okay, I'm gonna talk about that later on, but for now, I wanted to just address why it matters in terms of the choices, why food is so important. First, we have to understand food itself, and the definition of food is any substance taken in or assimilated by a plant or an animal to keep it alive, to enable it to grow and repair tissue and nourishment. That's what food is. So if it doesn't fit that description, and you're putting something other than food in your mouth, and which probably fits the description of poison. Poison is any substance that, through its chemical action, usually kills, injures, impairs an organism. Something that's destructive or harmful, a substance that inhibits the activity of another substance or the course of a reaction or process. So you have to make that choice. Is this food or is this poison? And it's going to have a difference in your body. The Dr. Rowley talked about deficiencies and imbalances. And so we can have deficiencies, but we can also have excesses, overconsumption, that can cause our organs that have to process all of these things to be stressed out to the point of actually being injured or damaged or inflamed. So excess can lead to all kinds of problems, especially if it's not healthy. Yes.
I'm going to interrupt for a moment. So Antoine, if we can go to slide 43, and we can come back to the water. It should say a new relationship with food.
A new relationship with, oh wait.
There we go. Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, thinking about making choices that bring life, that bring healing, we have to understand I just described what food is, and then how it works in the body, what it's used for. When we look at food as something that has healing properties, everything that God made in its natural form, without processing, has healing properties. Everything is nutritive and healing properties in its most original form. So we need to develop a relationship with food, a friendship that's not an enemy. Some people say, I hate vegetables, I hate this. Well, there are a lot of creative ways to get that in your diet. And most of my clients, if I give them a 30-day challenge, and usually in 3 weeks, you actually can retrain your taste buds and begin to, and at the end of 30 days, they begin to dislike the things that they like. Some of the unhealthy foods, quote foods, frankenfoods that they were choosing to eat no longer appeal to them. So instead of feeling like you're going to be deprived for the rest of your life, you want to feel like you're honoring yourself, you're giving yourself life. I get excited about when I know what these foods are doing for me, not against me. I'm like, oh yes. So the role of food is healthy food, real food is one, it is fuel. It provides the fuel we need in our bodies to give us energy to accomplish our daily activities. The second purpose of food is actually to build cells. And it gives us the materials. The food is actually the construction materials that the body uses to build itself. And when I talk about building, it's just amazing how we're designed. I just want to share quickly about this process of cell building. It's such a divine design. Every day, 10 billion cells in our bodies die a natural death. This is natural, programmed, and timed cell death. It's called apoptosis. And each day you carry and shed those pounds of dead tissues, of dead cells. So we need to make sure that the body has the capacity to rid itself of these old, worn out, run down, and damaged and diseased cells, and and renewal takes place. And that's crucial for that to happen optimally, to have a good, healthy diet. Without this without us having this pre-programmed cell lifespan, the body would stagnate and die prematurely. So we're regenerated daily. And so every day about an equal number of new cells are born and to replace the destroyed one. And that birth is from the food that you eat. So you're a master constructor, you're an architect of the next regeneration of your cells. That process is called mitosis. So I'll give you a few examples. Every 30 days, the most outer layer of your skin is replaced. Every 5 days, your stomach gets new lining. About every 100, with sickle cell, Our red blood cells don't have the normal life cycle, but nevertheless, those cells are replaced. A normal God time life cycle will be 120 days. So your bodies are making 25 million new cells every second. It takes about 18 months for the liver to be recycled. It takes about 4 to 7 years for your bones to totally regenerate. So it's not just like one day, it's a gradual process over time. But by the end of 7 years, the cells will not be the same cells in your bones that you had the prior 7 years. So it's really important to keep that in mind, that you are making a choice. Lastly, food is to help regulate all of those functions to operate properly. All the body functions, with their thousands of functions going on. Our nervous system is sending messages through our body at 170 miles an hour. It's amazing. And so food has to be compatible. I draw the analogy with cars, like diesel fuel will damage a car that requires 93 octane unleaded. So it's true with your body. Adulterated, chemicalized, highly processed food damages your body. It's not compatible. It's the temple for a Christian who houses the Holy Spirit. And the further away food is from the original design by God, the more damaging it is to your body. Next slide. Next slide, please. So again, you get to choose. You're the construction supervisor of your restored body, the building that houses the Spirit of God. So garbage in, garbage out. The quality of the next cells is based on the building materials you choose to provide. The food you choose to eat will determine whether or not that next generation of cells are defective or powerful and vibrant. And this affects your brain, food, and your mood. Food and mood have a definite relationship. Energy, attitude, foods. There are foods that can help bring depression, foods to ward off depression or restore you from that. So food plays a major role in your mental and physical health. Next slide. So the secret formula basically for healing body, mind, and spirit is to maximize nutrients. Food, what you eat, who you talk to, what you read, what you listen to, maximize what you feed off, and minimize or eliminate toxins and waste and poisons for every aspect. Food, the same categories, who you talk to, anything that may not be life-giving, health-giving, uplifting, light, to try to avoid. Next slide. So just keep in mind that your body is so finely tuned and you want to give it good food and it'll take you places. Any questions? Next slide. So the natural healing food usually has 3 properties, several, but these 3: high in fiber, high in nutrients, and low in calories. That equals life. And processed frankenfoods, I call it, is low, the exact opposite, low or no fiber, which will create all manner of sickness and disease, including constipation. Low or no nutrients, and high in calories, which can result in excess weight or obesity, and that's moving you more towards death. Next slide. So Dr. Carolyn kind of drew out a lot of this, so I'm not going to go into there, but I also don't eat meat. So fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, grains, beans, minimally processed or not processed are ideal for a life-giving diet. Next slide. And this is the destructive, poisonous diet with synthetic chemicals, preservatives, artificial coloring, artificial flavoring, highly processed, have hormones in it, antibiotics, and are genetically modified, especially if it's not organic, especially soy and corn. They are genetically modified, and you can look on documentaries about what happens to your body, progressively damaging it. I saw this and I couldn't resist including this school lunch as weapons of mass destruction. Instead of giving it food for the brain to work properly, it actually causes brain fog and all kinds of limitations on maximal brain function and intellectual development. Next slide. Some of the biggest offenders: fried foods, junk foods, fast foods, white bread, white rice, white flour, diet or sugar-free. Sugar-free usually has aspartame, which has been directly linked to autoimmune issues, especially multiple sclerosis. White sugar, high fructose corn syrup is very toxic. Other highly processed sugars and bad oils, hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated oils and trans fats. And I mentioned aspartame. That's usually in anything that says sugar-free. And then MSG, which is in some Chinese foods, but I think less and less so. But anytime I can't remember the name of this powder that you could buy to put on food. It has MSG on it. It's supposed to make the meat soft before you cook it. But look on the labels or anything you might buy that's packaged, any seasoning, to make sure it doesn't have MSG. That's the neurotoxins. Messes up your nervous system. I'm not going to go through all of these things, but there's a boatload of problems that processed franken foods can cause. You think of it, any chronic degenerative disease, and most likely it's diet and stress that are behind it. Next slide. And I don't know if you had more before I got into any of this. I'm not going to take a lot of time. Dr. Rowley, did you have something?
No, I wanted to make sure that we did go back to water and sunshine.
Okay.
So we're good, and then we'll talk about movement. We still we're still good on our time.
Okay, so we're in a nutshell, the colors of life. Dr. Rowley mentioned all the different colors and the significance, and without going into minute detail, just truly embrace that all the colors mean something. They all have nutrition, different benefits, life-giving, healing benefits. Next slide. So you want to eat the rainbow, like blue and purple fruits and vegetables have nutrients that support your eye health, cholesterol, immune system, digestion, loaded with calcium and other minerals, which is good for bone health. Of course, I mentioned inflammation, excellent for inflammation, especially the berries. I personally only buy organic berries. I don't buy everything organic, but berries, apples, pears, bell peppers, those are the most highly sprayed with produce. So those and greens. So those are what I buy organic because they're not treated. If you cannot get organic, just soak them really good in vinegar or other, you don't have to buy, or lemon, or you can get a high quality hydrogen peroxide. Make sure whatever you soak it in, you rinse all of that off really well. Lemons can work too for cleansing. Orange and yellow fruits and vegetables have nutrients that help reduce macular degeneration, which is an eye condition that a lot of people get as they age. Go back to the yellow, please. And so it also, you can see some of the benefits are overlap, like the purple also, as well as the orange and yellow, help with cholesterol, blood pressure, helps promote collagen formation, which is stronger tissues and skin, and healthy joints. Helps fight free radicals. Free radicals happen when you have toxins or any foreign thing in your body that, or even cell damage causes free radicals, oxidative stress. So antioxidants foods are excellent. Those berries, the purple and red foods are excellent sources of antioxidant components. So the orange and yellow help to bring alkalinity to your system, and they work well with magnesium and calcium for building bones. Next.
Shirley, I got a question. How do they make that cabbage purple?
I don't know.
Okay. I just wondered.
That's the question I've asked myself.
Oh, but
there's a lot of the word is drawing a blank, but sometimes they mix genes and cross
mhm,
they do a crossover.
Cross-pollinate?
Yeah. So there is the real purists, the real food purists are against that. I don't know. I have not heard that it has any negative effect on your body. Like they make seedless watermelon and all these things that are really not, the original design.
Yeah.
So when you come up with that, there's some cross, not pollination, I'm drawing a blank, but they kind of manipulate the cellular integrity of food. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for that.
White fruits and vegetables contain nutrients that are provide powerful boosting activity and activate the natural killer B and T cells. Those killer cells are anti-cancer cells, powerful cells that protect you against cancer, especially colon, breast, and prostate cancers. And it helps to balance your hormones and reduce the risk of hormone-related cancers. So you see cauliflower, you see garlic, see beans, onions. Okay, next slide. And green vegetables and fruits, and they're on a molecular level very close to red blood cells. So where the atom for magnesium in greens is and chlorophyll is where iron is in blood. Very similar molecular structure, so it's so powerful. It's a superfood. One of the foods you want to load up on as much as possible. But these also reduce cancer, blood pressure, cholesterol. It helps with digestion. All of God's food, unless it's highly processed, are really high in fiber. So they help eliminate and cleanse your body. All of God's foods have detoxifying properties. The produce, fresh produce, fruits and vegetables help detoxify. The body detoxifies itself naturally, but you need to give it the tools through food to support the process. Next slide.
Quick question.
Yes.
Clearly, as I reach the age of, as I get closer to the age of 40, I start thinking about, obviously for men's health, prostate, and then the colon. With that said, I've had a conversation with several gentlemen in my age range that have talked about getting colon cleansed. but doing that through like going to a doctor or going to their medical physicians for it. Does these things keep me from needing to actually do that?
Do these things?
If I'm packing myself day by day with a lot of these foods that are helping me cleanse, will I be in need of having to take those to do those types of things medically?
No, unless you, I do a detox.
Okay.
I do, in my food, your body detoxes naturally. Your food, a lot of food has natural detoxifying properties to cleanse all your organ systems naturally. And herbs too, that can be taken in the form of food. Okay. But because I have because our cells die quickly, you have a lot of waste. You have a lot more than normal cell damage, accelerated breakdown of cells. So that is damaged tissue that you have a propensity for more inflammation. So it's the demand on the body is greater than normal. Got it. So in addition to the fact that when I have a glycoride episode, I get drugs. I do get, all this intravenous stuff. I've got pneumonia, and then they bombard you intravenously. So I detox, especially my liver. I do liver detox once or twice a year. If I have been, if you eat well, if you eat like this, but you kind of get off track, you go out and eat at a restaurant, get hamburgers here and there. I do a detox an additional detox once or twice a year. And there are whole body detoxes. Unless you have severe constipation and you have a bad diet, you don't necessarily have to do a detox specifically for the colon. There are all kinds of organ-focused detoxes and form herbs and other things that, if you have special need, may be appropriate.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And red fruits and vegetables have nutrients. They are also great antioxidants to kill oxidative stress, which is really prominent with sickle cell. And so antioxidants, when you have free radical damage, oxidative stress, you get inflammation. And so all these foods have, most of them have anti-inflammatory property and antioxidant property. So these are huge in terms of bringing a great level of balance back into your body. Of course, the joint tissue and arthritis, that's all anti-inflammatory properties that come into play for those issues. Next. So let's see, other tips and pointers. Let's see, I think I have, I think that's it. Going back to the water.
Water. Where is?
That's way back.
Way back. Yeah, that's way back. That's far.
Here we are.
Okay, thank you. So water, our bodies are 70 to 75% of water, and our brain is 85% water. So we want to, when you sweat, you urinate, you vomit, or just natural perspiration, even if you don't notice it, your body is releasing water. Your body is using a lot of water in its process. It can't function in a it can't function to the capacity it needs to sustain wellness when you're dehydrated. There are a lot of problems that come. Of course, we know with sickle cell, dehydration is like against the law. You do not want to get dehydrated because that can throw you into a glycoride. And so dehydration can upset your blood sugar levels, which is a whole nother seminar, but it also influences your insulin regulation, blood pressure. I've had clients who just by hydrating properly have reversed high blood pressure. Just water alone. Now, I'm not saying that that's always, because there's several causes. You always want to go to the cause, but sometimes hydration, dehydration is the cause. So hydration is the solution. It can cause the body to produce histamines, which makes you more susceptible to, roll it back again, susceptible to allergies and that kind of thing. Back up one slide, please.
I have a question.
Yes.
And you may cover this related to drinking alkaline water. I've heard some people say that that's a good thing for them, or like just super healing, drinking alkaline water.
Experts disagree. I do not personally buy alkaline water. I'm not against it, but I really don't. I think you have that. If you eat a diet that I'm describing, your alkalinity will be balanced naturally.
Yes.
You know, if you eat a lot of soda, coffee, sugar, meat, those are highly acidic things. And so you don't need alkaline, in my opinion, alkaline water if you have these foods, because you can't, too much alkalinity is actually bad for you too. You need a balance, and you need to stay in your blood. Alkalinity needs to be like 7.35 on the scale. Too much acidity or alkalinity, the body is a self-healing, self-correcting, self-regulating, but when it's overtaxed, then things go out of whack and you start having sickness and disease. But I have a purifier, and I do a double purification. I just take my tap water and purify it twice. So that's what I do. If you are concerned about alkalinity, there's a supplement that doesn't create well, there's a supplement that I use, and I think the other woman who does
Tamika?
Tamika, yeah, Cell Food is keeps your electrolytes in balance.
Mm-hmm.
So it has trace minerals, it's oxygen, it has a safe way of providing oxygen into your cell, into your body on a cellular level. So trace minerals are in all those produce that we eat. I like Cell Food because you get additional oxygenation, but I can't claim that it will prevent it. Cell Foods, it has seemed to curb the onset of a glycoride for me personally, so I take that. But I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Stephanie, do you want to ask your question?
I'm putting the answer in the chat.
Mike,
Thank you.
okay.
Oh, okay. She's putting the answer in the chat. Cool.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Right. Thank you.
Water keeps your blood from, sickle cell can be sticky and cause problems, and you don't want to add to that problem by making it sluggish and get even increase the propensity for it getting trapped and blocked in your veins or your blood vessels. So it helps to prevent clotting and regulates all without exception, all body functions. And that helps the body to heal and correct itself. The body is always trying to bring it into a state of homeostasis, balance. It's always trying to find that equilibrium. And it's designed on its own to do that. It just needs our support to stay, to be successful in that endeavor. It helps with urinary, kidney, and liver problems. You can go to the next one. Water is a cleanser. It's a purifier. I just mentioned it's important for kidney health. It helps to flush out the toxins that do build up in your body, especially if your diet is not particularly ideal, which we want to encourage you greatly to improve on it gradually. It helps to restore and retain the elasticity and permeability of your cells. Whereas the because something is wet doesn't mean it's hydrating. Caffeine, soda, alcohol take water out of your body and actually are dehydrating. I would suggest that you take a half an ounce of water for every pound of body weight. So if you're 200 pounds, drink 100. I would say never to go over, no matter what your weight is, never go over 100 ounces. But trust your body, but try to hydrate it at least 64 ounces a day. But I think that up to 100 ounces, if based on your body weight, is a safe range. Somewhere between 64 and 100 ounces. Stress also, which we're all constantly dealing with, requires a greater demand of water, and it helps you to your body to regulate its stress fighting properties. It's better not to drink with meals because the digestive enzymes kind of get super diluted and they don't break your food down as well. And I know the saying goes, you are what you eat, but really you are what you digest. So you want to chew, 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 chew until almost liquid. It goes down and processes, gets into your stomach, and it does something like chyme. It turns it into chyme. And it's like a washing machine, and it's really kind of breaking all the food down so it can be absorbed and used by the body and separate out what needs to be passed through as waste. So if you eat too much, then like the washing machine gets stuck and our clothes don't get clean and everything gets jammed in there. So you don't want to eat too much. So you want to get that function in your stomach to be working well and all the digestive enzymes to be in there. If you drink too much and it gets sloshy around and it doesn't, the enzymes that come from your pancreas to break down everything to be useful by the body is significantly compromised.
I was actually going to ask.
I wanted to, go ahead, Antoine.
Oh, no. Yeah, what you probably say is going to be something that'll help with what I'm going to ask. Yeah.
Well, I say this a lot. It's in my book as well. Chew your water and drink your food. And so let me explain. And Shirley already set the stage, so I wanted to kind of keep that going. So drinking your food doesn't mean putting in the blender. That's not what I mean. I mean that you chew your food to the point that it's liquid, that you liquefy it. That's the most important. Chew your water, drink your food. Now, regarding chew your water, what does that mean? Like Shirley said, do not drink with meals. It's not necessary. So people know me that when I drink some water, I don't just swallow it. I actually swish it around in my mouth so that it's actually being swished around. Why do I do that? Because it actually gets the digestive juices going and it prepares your body to receive. So I'm swishing around my water before I even swallow it. So that's what I mean by chew your water. So you're literally, I don't know if you can see me, but I'm drinking my water. And I'm swishing around my teeth, my gums, everything before I actually swallow it. And I'm sure that you've heard one should drink, about a half hour before you eat your meal. And if you actually drink more often, you probably won't be as hungry as you think you are. One of the things, like Shirley said, is not to eat to where you feel so stuffed and uncomfortable. You should eat to the point that you are satiated, which is probably going to be far less. So chew your water, drink your food. That's my suggestion.
I think that's great. I just want to emphasize what Dr. Rowley has already said, that when so many times we confuse thirst with hunger. When you don't drink enough water, you tend to overeat because you want something, your body is telling you it needs something. But oftentimes what it needs is actually water. And I think somebody had said in the notes that they recognize when they drink enough water that they're not as hungry. Or maybe I just...
No, Calvin said that she's drunk enough fluids to get herself out of a crisis, or she's taking in enough water to actually get herself out of a crisis.
Yeah. So I've had like crisis happen, or they come on and all I do is like drink water, and they like completely go away.
Yes.
Very
true.
Yeah, Carolyn, that was actually you right in the middle of answering the question, because I was going to ask that. A lot of us, unfortunately, growing older or growing from a younger stage, we get filled with food from our parents, to where conscientiously, if our bellies don't feel full, we're not full. So how do we get people to understand how to just eat to satiation? Because you don't really need X amount of foods in order to, quench not necessarily just the hunger, but give your body what it needs to just continue to fuel itself for the day,
And part of that is to drink, because if you're doing 3-4-4, what I also tell people know that people ask me, so how much should I eat? And literally it's your fistful. We all have a different fist size, but your stomach is actually smaller than you think. So a fistful, and that's how much you actually put onto your plate, is a fistful of the brown rice, the green vegetable, the orange, the fistful. And that actually literally is enough. To the point that, again, it's about correcting yourself. So if you only eat that and you say, oh, I still feel hungry, trust me, if you can drink through your hunger, the next day you'll actually, you know what, I feel I'm okay. I feel actually full. Drink through your hunger. The next day after that, it's going to be more than enough, and you'll actually see that your stomach is actually shrinking. So again, 3-4-4 can either be for weight loss. I've done that with someone with sickle cell disease, and her doctor said that she needed to lose 100 pounds. We got up to 50. The last 25 was a bit of a bear. So you can lose weight. You can also gain weight on 3-4-4 as well, particularly for those who need to kind of bulk up, because as Shirley said, the best foods are nutrient dense and high fiber, and that's what 3-4-4 is. They're not empty calories. So again, food for thought. Alrighty, I did want to have Shirley finish this slide. And I did want to talk about not only hydration, what we're talking about now, but breathing. Because Calvin basically brought it up. She was able to, with hydration, get through her crises. But I'm also going to talk about a little bit later as well, hydration and breathing and how one can, and visual imagery. But go ahead, Shirley.
Okay, let's see, what's the next slide?
Sunshine.
Sunshine. And we talked about that. I think, Dr. Rowley, you covered that some about vitamin D and sun. Sometimes most of us have to take supplementation, but I'll mention that later. Next slide. So if we can get sunshine, there's so many benefits. This is just a sampling. Growth, sunshine is life-giving, and actually nothing can live and thrive and grow without sunlight. It increases our cellular oxygenation, which is an awesome benefit for us. Helps tolerate stress, supports the immune system, helps to eat up germs. And we with our issues, we definitely want to do everything we can for immune support. It lowers blood sugar levels and blood fats, especially for those with diabetes. It decreases heart rate and blood pressure and increases muscular strength. Now, there's too much of a good thing. So you need to have balance. The darker your skin, kind of a natural sunscreen. But at the same time, with the intense sun that we have here, you want to be a little bit mindful and not overdo it. There are brown and Black people who get skin cancer from overdoing it. It's, I think, fairly rare, but the benefits are great. In order to, the darker you are, the more sunscreen you have. So the more sun you want to indulge in and penetrate. Like someone who's very fair skinned, a Caucasian, could get great benefits in 15 minutes, where I may need to get for the same benefits they get in 15 minutes may take me 45 minutes or a half hour or more. So it's kind of relative to how much protection you naturally have from your melatonin. But it's also turns cholesterol into vitamin D, which is the big thing. I don't think that we can get enough sun to give us the demand on our body that we need right now, especially in terms of the benefits for immune support. We always think about it for bone health, but it's crucial for so many other functions, including immunity. And so I take 5,000 international units of vitamin D every day. And my labs don't show that that's excessive. I believe that if your labs show that your vitamin D levels are below 30, they may call it normal, but I think that you want to get it over 30 at a minimum, but not over 70. That's not a healthy level. So maybe like 50 is good if you can get it that way. I think it's kind of difficult to get it even up to 50, but you want to try to look at your blood labs and see if they're at least at 30 and work towards making them higher. I had a client who had an extraordinarily a very good diet and lifestyle, very holistic. He did everything right. He wasn't doing anything wrong. Managing his stress, but he had high cholesterol. And the problem was he had low vitamin D. When we got his vitamin D levels up, his cholesterol normalized. Of course, it's mood enhancing, helps with bone health, energizes our bodies, warms and purifies our blood. It has antiseptic properties. So lastly, well, maybe not lastly, but it's never too late. No matter how far you've gone down a wrong road, turn back. That's a Turkish proverb that I like. And so begin where you are. Don't ever give up. Don't ever feel like it's too late, because it's never too late to begin to live large and maximize the quality of your life. I don't know if we have time, Dr. Rowley. I was going to just talk about something we mentioned about replacements for sugar.
Oh, yes.
Maybe some food particularly beneficial for sickle cell.
Yes, dear. So
okay.
Go ahead and do that. I was just seeing if that was one of your slides, but go ahead and do that. And
I don't think it is.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and do that. Thank you.
Okay. There are a whole bunch of substitutes that you can make for certain things that you may enjoy. But I'll talk about sugar because that's real toxic, white and granulated sugar. There are certain replacements that are better, like raw honey. I use stevia. When you look at stevia, I think there's a product called stevia in the raw, but if you look at the label, it's really a whole bunch of stuff and a little teeny bit of stevia. So you always have to read the labels. You want stevia that's either in glycerin or maybe a mild alcohol base, but you don't want to see it with a whole bunch of other ingredients like I don't know, some other kinds of sugars with a teeny bit of. That's one, but raw honey is another healthy replacement. Blackstrap molasses. You can use coconut sugar, grade B maple syrup. Grade B because that's less processed than regular maple syrup. Not Aunt Jemima's or Tom's Cabin or whatever it is, but real maple syrup. I saw that they have like monk fruit sugar now. I would venture to say that's a safe bet. I have to put a caveat on it. I haven't researched it. Coconut sugar.
Shirley, how do you feel when you have?
I'm
Shirley,
sorry?
how do you feel when you have a product that reads in the ingredients pure cane sugar?
How? I didn't understand.
So,
You're,
what
When
do
you have an
feel about,
ingredient, yeah, go ahead, Carolyn, go ahead.
there are some ingredients that say pure cane sugar. Are you including that as your sugar sources? Pure
no,
cane?
no,
Okay.
I don't buy that. Sometimes if I want a healthy snack, it'll have that on it and I'll occasionally indulge but I wouldn't buy it and have it on any kind of frequent or regular basis, just very occasionally. If a product has that in it, occasionally it's not going to be a big deal, very occasionally. So those are the suggestions I have. I'm not, rice syrup is a lesser of evil than white syrup, but I don't think should be on the top of the list. So we can, again, retrain our taste buds and reduce the cravings for sugar. Like I mentioned, or maybe I didn't, that if you have a sugar craving or a salt craving, a lot of times that indicates adrenal fatigue. So changing your diet and managing stress can really help balance that and reduce those cravings. The other thing I wanted to mention was just a few foods that are particularly helpful with sickle cell. And beets,
Okay.
beets are good. They help build and clean the blood. If you get regular transfusions, because it's high in iron, it wouldn't be a good idea. But it helps to tonify the kidneys, the liver, the gallbladder. If you have one, mine was removed. Your bladder, it strengthens your heart, it improves circulation, which is always a good thing. Purifies the blood, benefits the liver. Those things are really important for us. Brown rice. And there are a lot of experts who disagree on the whole thing about rice. I'm fine with rice personally. Not white processed refined, but maybe jasmine, basmati, brown rice. Quinoa, some of the things that Dr. Rowley mentioned are even better choices, like amaranth, quinoa, millet. But brown rice is a very energetic food and it strengthens the lungs and the spleen. Garlic is awesome. It's awesome antibiotic, or just kind of, it fights disease and infections, improves circulation. And then a bunch of vegetables like kale, yucca, chickpeas, cabbage, kidney beans, fruits and, well, foods, lentils, mustard greens, onions, millet, radishes are superfoods. Cayenne pepper helps the yang energy. It disperses congestion, expels cold, and is good for abdominal pain. African cassava inhibits sickling and builds red blood formation. It's not easy to, I'm not sure how easy it is to get in California. It's commonly eaten in African continents. I was able to go to an African market in Alabama before I moved here. African cassava is not the same as yams and sweet potatoes, but you can probably purchase it at one of the international grocery stores or a Caribbean or African or even maybe a Hispanic grocery market. Yams, although yams are not the same as cassava, yams do have benefits in terms of helping the body remove toxins. And like Dr. Rowley said, rich in vitamin A, which is anti-cancer, and helps with the immune system, also so important for us. Millet is good for your spleen and your pancreas. It strengthens the kidneys, which our kidneys can really be stressed out. So millet is a good thing. Cabbage, it helps destroy parasites and purifies blood. It also helps with digestion. Some people with the cruciferous vegetables like cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower get gaseous. So listen to your body. If it's hard for your body to process that, then you may want to minimize it or see if it works mixed with something else. Lentils, excellent for circulation and heart health, which sometimes our hearts are really stressed from the demands that sickle cell places on it. Cardiomegaly is common with sickle cell. Ginger, excellent for circulation, excellent for blood flow, excellent for digestion, excellent for inflammation, excellent for energy. So it's a great food. I get the raw root and I put it in my blender with water, wash it, put it in a blender and make a concentrate and pour some in a little water with my morning tonic with a little lemon. First thing every morning. Flaxseed, and there's more, but I'll stop here. Flaxseed is excellent. It helps minimize circulatory disorders, reduces blood viscosity. It encourages blood flow. It's high fiber, high in protein. It helps to reduce tissue damage from lack of circulation. And it also helps prevent ischemia, which is really a big issue for us, the tissue damage from the interruption of blood flow. So that's a really other superfood. And lastly, I just wanted to mention some supplements. I've already mentioned cell food. When I changed my diet and lifestyle 33 years ago, 32 years ago when I was 33, I did not take any supplements. I overcame, I stopped having crisis for the next 25 years. I had other issues that I overcame. I had hypothyroidism, irritable bowel syndrome, chronic urinary tract infections, chronic upper respiratory infections, eczema, and all of those went away, never came back to this day. I started sickling some again in the last 5 years, but I didn't I didn't have a crisis except twice in 25 years. And the first 10 years was food only. I did not take one supplement. So that's how powerful food is. Supplement is, as the name says, is supplements. It's not the foundation. They cannot substitute for food on any level whatsoever. So having said that, I had begun taking supplements. I take L-glutamine instead of Endari, a high quality L-glutamine powder. So I take 15 grams of that a day. Of course, most of us have been recommended and take folate, 1,000 micrograms. B complex, and Dr. Rowley talked about B12, especially if you're vegan. But B complex, if you have any neurological secondary issues from sickle cell can be very helpful on a lot of levels. That would be a workshop in and of itself. But it helps a lot.
I was going to interrupt Shirley because I wanted to make sure that we spent just a few minutes on movement and then open up the floor for questions. So if we can move to the movement. Bottom line, everyone, it's important to move your body. Whether you have had double hip replacement, obviously not when you're currently in a pain episode, but after you get home, it's just important to move your body. And whether you do move your arms in the bed, as Kimball just showed us what we can actually do just sitting down. So it's the equivalent of this. They say that if you want to live longer, to floss your teeth, it's the same thing with moving your body, because otherwise your body atrophies. And therefore, that's just, I think, speeding up that process. But if you can move your body, there's so many benefits of just the circulation. You'll feel better, the endorphins. So whether you're walking, you do yoga, Pilates, gyrotonic, or stretching, anything that you can do is actually helpful. But not doing anything it plays a role in terms of your mood. And I did want to just mention that I think there are a couple of slides that we have that we can talk more about why it matters. So if we can advance those, and then I did want to open up the floor for questions.
Okay, next slide. So movement matters. We want to be mindful of the state we're in and not overexert ourselves into crises. But I think, as Dr. Rowley said, any kind of movement, and I think Antoine and also the other gentleman, movement, even when you're not in the best of health or you're feeling somewhat in a glyco ride mode, some level of movement to get a little circulation, oxygenation going can be helpful. It is excellent for balancing blood sugar levels, supports the immune system, which of course helps us to be less susceptible to infections. And it definitely improves digestion and reduces food stagnating and sitting there rotting and putrefying in your stomach. But if you chew well and you don't overeat and drink with it, you shouldn't have that problem anyway. But it absolutely helps with your food's digestion. You have to make your food available to be used to strengthen and heal and restore your body. Releases those happy hormones, those endorphins that combat depression, and increases your heart health, reducing the risk of heart problems. Next slide. For those of you still menstruating, it helps to stimulate the proper hormonal activities. And it actually, certain exercises massage and tone your internal organs to keep them more vital, improves metabolism, the ability of your body to burn fat and remove waste and toxins. And it helps to, it puts your body in a state where it can recover more quickly and bounce back more quickly from any trauma or injury or sickness. You spring back quicker, and it makes you less prone to strains and sprains. You're not as fragile. So if you twist your ankle, you may not have the same outcomes as if you didn't do exercise. You're toned up and stronger. So it also helps prevent muscle deterioration. Next.
And that's it. So at this point, I I do want to take questions, and then we're going to bring this all together with just some final thoughts. But let's stop here. We gave you guys quite a bit of information from the holistic point of view with food, movement. I'd like to know if anyone has any question, thoughts, or comment at this time.
Are there any special foods that help with skin elasticity?
There are, but I don't have it off the top of my head.
Okay.
And I think
so Stephanie?
one of the foods I mentioned help with collagen production with skin thing. Drinking a lot of water is huge with skin.
So Stephanie, what we'll do, I'm taking down your name. And so I have your email. So Shirley and I will email you with the information.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Other question? But yes, water is key, but I believe that there are foods that we just don't recall. Other questions, comments, thoughts?
The question I have is just how do we get, like, and I was hoping that Calvin A was on, but it seems as though a lot of our messaging comes from the best place possible, which is the folks that have lived longer through the process of dealing with sickle cell, giving advice to the youth. But it seems like the youth still has trouble understanding how to create or how to adopt these methods to eat this type of way or create these kind of regimens. If you guys, in a nutshell, if you can put it into perspective of the younger folks that may have gone through a situation where they didn't grow up with a mom that didn't feed them, that fed them a lot of protein, or parents that fed them a lot of protein, or fed them just certain things that they can't really break from the chaos. How do they, what is some tips or help to get them to understand how to try to really use that or governing process in their eating?
So you know what I do is we gave everyone a lot of information depending upon where they might be on that spectrum, right? But when I actually do this talk, I assume that for the most part, people aren't eating this way. So what I do is say, hey, everyone, just choose one area, seriously, one area. And for many, that area might be sugar. Just being able to decrease sugar, the white bread, which turns into sugar, the white pasta, which turns into sugar, etc. So even though they still will know 344, but that's drastic, right? So I always have them choose one area. So one person decided, you know what, I'm going to just stop doing sodas. So that was huge.
Yeah.
Or I'll say, okay, if you can do that, how about just making sure that you prepare foods with olive oil? That's a big deal.
Right.
So I actually prefer that if they're a newbie to this, the best way of getting folks to come aboard is to help them with just one at a time, because it can be quite overwhelming if they're not used to doing vegetables to say, okay, so now you need to do the green leafy and the yams and the this and the brown rice. I just have them choose one thing, and for them to master decreasing the soda or decreasing the sugar, they feel much better. And guess what? That motivates them to then start doing more. I've had that happen time and time again. So just basically choosing that one area first will actually motivate them to get to the next, do some of the other things that we talked about.
Okay.
One of the things that I recommend to are in line with what Dr. Rowley just said, but I also, one of the things, everybody's so different in terms of how they can make these changes. one of the suggestions that I make is for some people is to just add. You know, the idea of taking away is just like, no. So, you know, so it's a way of moving it out because there's no room. So you take away room from the other stuff by adding. So like you make a commitment. Some people who don't eat vegetables. So just add. So we start to add, and it takes away, and the more you add, the less room it is for the other stuff. So it naturally falls off by just the process of adding. The other thing is exactly what Dr. Rowley said. I also make a suggestion. Vegetables seem mostly the biggest problem a lot of times. So I will make a suggestion for them to get a bunch of vegetables and clean them all at one time. Get, you know, some carrots, some zucchini, some cabbage, some, you know, just a bunch of different red bell peppers, whatever. Get all of those, wash them, chop them up, and then you can, you know, take that big and refrigerate it, take that big bowl and make a whole bunch of different things with it. You can take that, it's onions or whatever, you can take that, you can saute it and put it over rice, or you can put it, take half of it and put it in a big bowl with organic tomato base or coconut milk base and make a soup and put some curry in it or whatever. Or you can take that same mix and make that a part of a salad. You can add some spinach or some other kinds of romaine lettuce or spring mix, add that to your salad. So you can make soup, salad, or saute from one thing.
Yeah.
And so I try to let them not feel overwhelmed and see how they can do some simple, you know, things and be creative with it and experiment with vegetables. With fruit. That I suggest sometimes that they just slice it up. Sometimes slicing it makes it a lot more palpable and doable. It's even for me, I usually don't bite into an apple. I'll slice it up and put some cinnamon on it or whatever and have it like a little side. But you can make, I also say, you can make a cereal out of fruit in the morning. You can chop up really good, dice some apples, dice a banana, dice a pear, and, you know, put some dried dates or strawberries and put some nuts. I put some nuts, like a homemade muesli, put some nuts in there, some sunflower seeds and some pecans and some pumpkin seeds, and put it all in there. And you can actually take the seeds and mix it in a jar so you don't have to make it fresh every time, and just take some fresh vegetables and then put some coconut milk or almond milk in there. So if you want to sweeten it even more, a couple of drops of stevia. But I try to give them like some doable, not too foreign ideas to start with.
Nice. So a quick question, Shirley, were you on last month when Stephanie did her presentation in regards to treatments that are out right now?
Shirley, were you on last month for Stephanie's talk?
I don't think so.
Okay, so the
treatments that are about the latest treatments.
Yeah.
You said?
Yes.
Sickle cell?
Yeah.
Like the gene therapy and the drugs.
Well, yeah, hydroxyurea, oxide.
I think so. Yes.
So in respect to that, and then kind of the things that we talked about, you had mentioned about the L-glutamine that you take rather. What is your diet? We had some younger people that were on that were taking different types of treatments that were a little bit more on the serious side. What would you say, based on how your diet has changed or how you've created a way of eating, keeps you away from needing any of these?
Well, I think that I make a parallel to people who have generational high blood pressure. Or like they say, high blood pressure runs in my family or cancer runs in my family.
Right.
So look at it as a genetic or
Predisposition.
yeah, but I looked at sickle cell the same way. Just because you have a propensity to have a condition doesn't mean it has to express itself. So if I do everything I can to take all the stressors off of my body, it will reduce the frequency as evidenced by what my experience was. Now, having said that, I had that 25-year streak. In the last 5 years, I have been having glycol rides.
Okay.
So, and I never have had more than 2 in a year, even during this glycol ride. However, I did have a crazy string in the last 12 months, and it may have been related to all this excessive amount of stress. I thought I was managing it well, but I had 4 events back to back in a 4-month period. November, December, January, February, I was hospitalized twice.
Oh.
And so my doctor and I are talking about hydroxyurea, and I look at that as just a temporary stopgap. I don't intend to make that a lifestyle, but
Right.
I'm going to recalculate my whole holistic game plan for me, because my body might just need a new, sometimes like you get, you kind of
Like
get a
so it's a plateau, or it's like your body gets used to something.
Exactly. So I'm going to recalculate, and I look at the hydroxyurea as just a little bridge, a stopgap until I get my new plan totally underway.
Awesome. Nice.
So everyone, it looks like we're up at our time, and I just want to leave everyone with this. First of all, thank you for being intentional, for being here to learn more about life tasks and food. But I did want to mention this, and perhaps this is another topic for another time, that when we're intentional in terms of hydrating our body, which actually can cut off having a major episode. Breathing is also important, and I want to mention that about deep breathing. And so everyone here, if you have sickle cell disease, everyone here should have a spirometer, everyone. And so when you're deep breathing, that too can actually help to ward off going down that path if you feel, that it's coming on. If you don't have one, let us know. Let SCAA know, or let us know, and we can actually send you one. But it's really helpful in general to just learn how to deep breathe. So I know how to deep breathe without it, but I think when you start using your spirometer, you can then use that even without actually having it. Those are really important, as well as finally, just being present. Sometimes we're just running around, and it's just nice to be able to be present and to stop. I know that we have all these Zoom meetings sometimes back to back, or we have this place to go, then there's COVID, all kinds of things are happening. But it's nice to be able to stop and to make sure that our pain episode doesn't get the best of us. At some point, we can contain it. And there's 2 types that it can come. Sometimes pain episode can come gradually. That's the time that we can prevent it. And sometimes it just comes automatic and it's kind of out of control already. Hydration, deep breathing, visualization, knowing that you have this, or maybe you need a heating pad or what have you. Those are the times that you can, get on that. So I just wanted to leave you with that, and thank you for your time and for allowing me to share our knowledge. Thank you.